Hello Wolfpack, lots to talk about here on Bitcoin today. We're going to be talking about the potential that we're having on Bitcoin for the bottom to be in, and obviously the opposing argument to that. But right now in this video, this is kind of for the first time I've kind of stated this here. I think it's slightly more likely that Bitcoin will have a bounce here than it will drop. But also, I'm overly convinced, and I'm very convinced that this is actually going to be a bit of a pathetic bounce, and it's not going to take us above 52k. I think we're seeing something similar to what we saw in May to July, and I think we have a bit further to go of sideways consolidation before really anything can happen here on Bitcoin. But what I do think is going to happen is a bounce up here to 48k, or at the very minimum, a small bounce up to the 9 EMA, which is this blue descending line here at 47k right now. And the reason why I'm not overly confident, even though I think it's slightly more likely that this is a bottoming out region, is because I think there's a lot of bearish indicators still that would tell us that the long-term trend is downwards. I want to be very clear. I want to be very, very, very clear, okay? Because a lot of people confuse my words. I don't know how they do it. I make a video a day. Go and see my opinions in the video, but whatever. I am not long-term bullish on Bitcoin. I am long-term. Well, it depends what you mean by long-term, obviously, but I mean, like, the next maybe 6 months to a year. I think Bitcoin's going to be going downwards, okay? But I still think that if we see a double bottom formation here, it could be the catalyst to a dead cat bounce like that, okay? I don't think a double bottom needs to take us back to all-time highs on Bitcoin. It could, and if it does, well, we have to react when that happens. But I think that there's a lot of indicators to kind of suggest that Bitcoin is in a strong downwards trend here, and especially the weekly chart is incredibly bearish. But look, the daily chart is looking okay. All right, the only, there's a few bearish things I could say about it, right? We have rising volume in a downwards trend over the last 3 days, which is bearish, right? You don't want to see rising volume in a downwards trend because it means the trend is strengthening. We have, we're below basically every single dynamic previously support zone. They're all acting as resistance right now. But other than that, right, we're seeing a bullish RSI divergence on the daily. We're seeing some sort of bearish MACD cross that hasn't really come in yet. It's flattened out, which means that it won't cross bearish unless we go below 45.5k, which very well could not happen in this current region here. So that's good to see. We also have a stochastic RSI, which doesn't really mean an awful amount, but it's supporting evidence that's bottoming out. And then, as extra supporting evidence, fear grid index is high fear right now as well. So sorry, 1 second. So, it's pretty clear that, this is a potential bottom out region. And, the W formation is a very strong formation. We saw it in September. We've seen it on basically every single altcoin in the crypto market in July, right? It's a very strong formation in which it marks the bottom of a trend. Now, do I think that just because I think, it's more likely that the bottom is in here, we should be buying back fully? No, I don't think that. I don't think that at all, right? I think we need to see some resistance flip to support first, namely 48k, namely 52 or 53k. 53k, right? 53k is the ultimate area because that's where the bull market support band is, and that's the top of the range. If we zoom in on the 4-hourly chart, we can see the top of the range here is at 52k, but if we bring up the bull market support band, that's sitting just above at 53k. So look, 53k is kind of the ultimate trend breaker here. If we jump above 53k, basically I'd be happy to buy a lot of coins here in the cryptocurrency market, because I don't think it's going to stop there if we go above 53k. Do I think it will go to new all-time highs? No, I don't. But what I can say is that if we break above the bull market support band, that's going to lead to at least a couple of months of an upwards trend. That's typically what happens, at least on Bitcoin. We don't usually go above the bull market support band and then fall straight below. It doesn't really happen like that, right? It leads to at least a couple of months of the same trend that we're continuing through to continue, right? So if we're going downwards into it, you're going to see at least a couple months below it. Go upwards, you're going to see at least a couple months above it, right? That's just how it works typically. And so, that's something we need to be keeping an eye on. 53k. That's kind of the ultimate buy it back point in my opinion on Bitcoin. 53k. And you could be buying right here, right now, right? I've picked up some Bitcoin this morning at 45.7k, and well, this morning for an Australian person, right? It might be a night time for the US, but 45.7k, and that's a great buy-in zone, because all we need to do, and I've spoken about this in yesterday's video, if you buy here or you buy lower than here, right? You set your stop loss just below 45.5k, which is the major support. We're not dropping below anytime soon, or according to the charts, right? Well, we haven't been dropping below, at least. It's a very strong support. We could very well drop below it, right? But you set your stop loss just below that major support zone, and you set your take profit wherever you want it, right? And then you've got like, what, 1.5, 2% risk for whatever reward you're going for, which is a maximum of, what, 12%, because if we're looking at 53k, going to be about a 12%, 13% reward, right? So a 2% risk for a 13% reward. Very good buy-in ratio. Even if you think the market's going to go down, that's usually going to outweigh, right? Even if you're overall bearish in the market, you know, you can always take a swing trade like that. You know, what do I think is the most likely trend here for Bitcoin? I think personally we're going to see a little bounce, and we're just going to continue the sideways movement, and then eventually we're going to do that, and you know, we might see a dead cat from there, who knows. But I think the sideways movement is what's going to happen here in Bitcoin. There's simply not enough decisiveness between any of the bulls or the bears. Every single move is just cut off really short, because no one's got power at the moment. The bulls don't have power, the bears don't have power. What I will say is, typically when that happens in a downwards trend like we're seeing now, it means there's a reversal. We could see a reversal very well. I'm not doubting it, right? We could see a little dead cat bounce here, but what I will say is that dead cat bounce has to happen before the weekly candle closes. We have to be above 48.4k by the weekly close in 5 days. If we're not looking good, right? Whenever we close 2 candles below the 50-week SMA, we end up at the 200-week SMA within about a year, which in a year's time would be at around 25k to 30k, right? So if we close this weekly candle below 48.5k, you can pretty much, you know, step away from crypto for a year, or you know, you can keep trading if you want to, but it's not going to be looking good. You'd be trading a lot of short trades and bear trades rather than bull trades, or you can trade dead cat bounces and stuff. But you know, that said, I'll still be here. I'm a full-time trader. Regardless, you know, we don't want to be spending more time below this 50-week SMA, which is this red line, by the way. We do have the Ichimoku cloud for support, but as you can see, that's acted as support in the last 4 weekly candle closes. It's recently moved down, and we don't have that as support anymore. The stochastic RSI has bottomed out. The MACD is primed for a bullish cross. We've seen a hidden bullish divergence in the RSI as well as a bearish divergence in the RSI that not many people talk about. We have descending volume on the weekly candles for this downwards trend, which means that, you know, potentially a reversal would be coming soon. So there's a lot of evidence here. A lot of it's bearish, a lot of it's bullish. I'd say the bullish evidence is outweighing the bearish evidence in the short term at this point in time. Do I think that that's going to change the long-term trend? It might. But honestly, at the moment, I'm not too sure, right? I think that the long-term trend is going to be downwards until proven otherwise. I'm waiting to be proven otherwise, right? Nothing that has actually materialized is telling me that the downwards trend is going to be stopping anytime soon, right? I'm seeing a lot of hints. I'm seeing a lot of indicators that are saying, hey, it might be stopping soon, but nothing's materializing yet. And I think that's the problem Bitcoin's been having. We've had a lot of opportunities in which this downwards trend looks like it's going to stop, and it just doesn't happen, right? So, you know, honestly, I'm waiting for something to materialize, and I think that's what people should be doing as well, you know, minus this swing trade I'm in right now, which is very low risk. So on the 3-day chart as well, what we could say about the 3-day chart, stochastic RSI has bottomed out, prime for a bullish MACD cross. We've got the, you know, since 2018, November 2018, we've had a rising RSI support line that we've just retested. We've just come below, and this is a bearish thing, we've just come below the Ichimoku cloud, and we're testing it for resistance right now, which isn't too good. So look, you know, ultimately, it doesn't change the whole premise of this video, which I'll state one more time, okay? In the short term, I'm talking the next few weeks, right? Next month, Bitcoin looks like it might be seeing a bounce here. The problem with that is that the long-term trend would still recommend downwards price, or would still suggest downwards price action. So regardless of what happens in the short term here, I still think downwards price action is going to prevail on Bitcoin until proven otherwise. And if we get above 53k, I might be proven otherwise. Okay, I might be proven otherwise, and we'll have to readjust at that point. I can't say for sure, because if we get above 53k, it takes us 2 months to get above there. Obviously, the market's going to look a lot different to what it is now. But you know, let's just say 53k at this point in time, and if we get above there, we'll kind of have to reassess the market, because you can't say things like that, right? You can't say, oh, when we get above 53k, it's going to be all good, because, you know, we don't know how long that's going to take. We don't know what the market's going to look like at that point. But at the end of the day, we'll see, all right? But I think short term, we could be seeing a small bounce off of this support zone. But ultimately, I'm still gonna, you know, my kind of premise of this video, I guess, is me still thinking that we have some more sideways movement to go. There's simply too many people on the sidelines. It's very similar to what we saw in July, really. I mean, and what we're seeing right now, it's very comparable to July. We can remove all of these indicators and get you a bit of a fractal here from July, remove everything actually. And what we can see is if we take a bar chart here, a bar pattern, it actually looks very, very, very similar to July, you know, something like that. And you can see the similarities there are undeniable, right? And that would suggest, you know, a further downwards trend. And, you know, it has played out perfectly so far from July. And what's interesting about this July fractal is that it would suggest the bottom would come at the same time the bottom came in September, right? This whole region would be support and we'd be bottoming out on that region, okay? And that's interesting to note, right? Because I do kind of think that at some point we will come down and we will fill the 42k wick that we had here, right? Usually we do that. When we have strong wicks to the upside or downside, usually we fill those wicks eventually. So I would suggest that the most likely scenarios in order, right, would be sideways action and eventually going down to fill this wick and then swinging upwards and seeing, you know, some sort of dead cat bounce before a bear market. That would be option one, and that's my most favorable kind of thing. That's what I think is going to happen. The second most likely option would be a full recovery in form of a W formation and potentially an inverted head and shoulders pattern like that, right? And that would be the inverted head and shoulder there. And then my least likely option, I don't really think this is going to happen, is we just drop straight through, right? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's enough selling pressure in the market to drop straight through, but honestly, who knows, right? I'm sitting on the sidelines right now, for the most part, minus this Bitcoin trade I in. I recommend people do that as well. I don't think this is the time to be buying anything other than short-term scalp trades. I think you should be waiting for a break of 45.5k. If that happens, you'd be buying in the 40k to 42k region. If we break 53k, you'd buy at the break, right? Because that's going to suggest that we're going to be heading upwards for a period of time, possibly to like 60k. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something from this video. Hope you got something out of it. The videos recently, and this video especially, has been a kind of one of those videos where it's like, oh, well, look, we could go up, we could go down. But that's just what I'm seeing, okay? That's not just me milking a video. It's what I'm seeing on the charts. I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing. If I'm indecisive, that's an opinion, right? You don't always need to be bullish or bearish. Being on the fence, being indecisive is an opinion in itself. I'm giving you the evidence. You need to decide for yourselves. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.